Hey everyone, I'm Sam from Prismic. Today I'm here with designer and front-end developer Annie Liu. And today we're talking about a subject that I don't think gets enough airtime, which is emotions in web development. And Annie, just to start things off in a really broad and general way, what do you think are like the role of emotions in the life of a web developer?
Yeah, there's so much to unpack in this topic, I feel, but I guess at like a starting point is as humans, we're all emotional, creatures. So it's kind of hard to actually escape from emotion in all aspects of your job. I guess for web development specifically, if I think about emotion, like whether I have a good day or a bad day, if I'm actually upset about something, that actually has a really large impact on the work that you do. Like, for example, I think not too long ago, I was working on this like really big PR where we were going through I literally went through every single file in our front end code base to refactor it to make SaaS work on it. And it took a long time and I was getting very tired of it. I just wanted to get it done with. And as a result of that, I didn't put as much care into it near the end because I was just like, I'm so tired of this. I just wanted to get it done, just push that PR out and my CTO can handle it. But that kind of, frame of mind in that particular moment where I was just been working on it for so long was like detrimental to that PR because I wasn't putting the same level of, care or like looking after it the way I would normally do. And I guess it's a thing about um, like having like being able to be very persistent and consistent with your work. And it's going to get hard. Like sometimes you just have to grind through it. But but being in that particular mindset meant that I was tired and I was just like get it out of the way. And so, whereas like in another state of frame of mind where you're feeling a lot better, it's easier to like take bigger risks or do other things like make other decisions based on positive emotions. So I think just in general, emotions play a really huge part in your day to day and how you actually approach your work and how you actually approach your coworkers as well.
Yeah, the coworkers, it's really important how we treat each other as humans. With regards to
Hmm.
the code, um, you're making me think about how, sometimes if I'm dealing with a technology that I don't like or a library that's poorly documented or something and I get frustrated, I might actually start like taking that out on the code by like writing anti patterns or like taking shortcuts or something. And now that I'm
Yes,
thinking about it, now that I'm conscious of it, it's like so silly to get angry at code, but it feels real.
very real. And that's definitely a thing that actually I do remember that something that I was told at the very beginning of my journey is the idea of hustle code, where you're just
Mm.
like writing code just to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times you get into that mindset when, like you said, you get frustrated with the code that you're writing and you're just like, I just want to get it done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I really enjoy in your writing. You use words like curiosity, empathy. When we were talking about learning, you were talking about vulnerability. What what are some of these emotions in the context of web development, and what are some key emotions do you think that we should be paying attention to?
Yeah. So for me, with curiosity in particular, when I first started my web development journey, I was not interested in coding at all. I studied multimedia design in university, and a part of that course involved coding, and I hated it. I spent like the whole time just trying to get away from it. In my jobs as a designer, I actually did have to build and design websites, but I did not enjoy the coding aspect of it at all. And it was only until I came to Toronto that like the circumstances around me kind of led to me giving it a second go. And I knew that, I wasn't going to be passionate about it right off the bat because that was just like based on the history that I had. I just was not that interested in it. So I just started to get curious about it. I was like, okay, where is it now compared to the time when I did learn it? And I went to different boot camps at the time. Like they had little like intro nights and I did quite a few different introduction nights like around Toronto, and slowly, it like different things kind of appealed to me. I was like, oh wow, what is this Flexbox thing? Like everything was so different. So by me being curious about it and not having any expectations around like, okay, maybe I will like be a developer right away, but just trying things out, just like taking small steps and the act of just actually going down that road to see where it would go was very, very extremely helpful to my like particular journey. I didn't feel like, okay, I am just going to be a developer right now. It was just like, I'm just going to try and see if this is something that clicks with me.
Mm-hmm.
And if it does, then I'm just going to follow that.
Yeah, just following that curiosity and kind of like not being too hard on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You've also said that you think empathy is essential to design, which is a notion that I really love. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, I think that the work we do as developers, as creators, I suppose, creators of the internet, is that we're not building things for ourselves. We're building things for other people. And there's a lot of, well, maybe not a lot, but people, you do hear about accessibility in web development. And I feel like it's something that is not talked about enough, or like it's something that is a, last minute consideration. We were taught about accessibility when I was at bootcamp, but it wasn't until I actually went to my first accessibility conference in Toronto that I think that I built a lot more empathy for the people that I was building for, because I was hearing their stories like firsthand, the kind of impact that inaccessible, websites have on them and have on their, their parents or the people around them. So by actually hearing their stories and understanding the impact of the products that we build on a greater level and how it impacts people, it has a huge impact on how, I approach the work that I do. I think with empathy, having empathy, I think in your work as well, is a really smart business decision as well, because you're putting yourself in a user-centric mindset. And by doing that, you're building products that resonate a lot better with customers and with people. So it's a smart business decision as well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just starting to learn a little bit of about accessibility now, and I really want to learn more. But my personal anecdote is that I noticed that a lot of developers use Firefox, and I think it makes sense because, as far as I can tell, it's the best browser. But I use Chrome, and my friends who develop in Firefox are constantly making things that break in Chrome. And so I've kind of resolved for myself that I feel like I should always use Chrome, or maybe even like, Internet Explorer or something, just to get that experience of like, okay, not how does this work in ideal circumstances, but how does this work in the real world, when somebody's like looking at it on their phone on the bus or something,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people forget about building for mobile devices as well. And
Totally.
when you're thinking about people in, third world countries, they probably don't, a lot of people don't have the kind of, big screens that we have on our laptops and computers.
Yeah.
So they're actually looking at your content like on a really small phone. And I think for me, I still actually design for like 320 pixels, which is really small, but I should probably like increase that. But in my previous job as well, we were still supporting Internet Explorer. So I had to make everything work for Internet Explorer, which was both a very frustrating and enlightening experience, because I realized how many things the Internet Explorer doesn't like. But, in my job now, we don't, support, our customers don't really use Internet Explorer, but I make sure that everything I do works on Firefox and Chrome. And I'm quite partial towards Firefox myself.
Yeah, of course. I'm really glad to hear you mention less developed countries, because that's another area that I think we don't think about very much, and how in places like Nigeria or India, there are huge markets and they don't necessarily have the same download speed. Maybe a lot of users are on tiny phones.
Yes. I think something that is missed about accessibility is that it's not just the way it looks on screen, it's also download speed and the size of how fast a website is when someone with a slow connection is actually, accessing that site.
Yeah. Um, Circling back around to the conversation about emotions, um, I also wanted to ask you about one of the emotional experiences that I think is probably the most common for developers and especially new developers, which is imposter syndrome. Um, and for you personally, is that an experience that you're familiar with? And if so, do you have advice on how we can all work with it?
Yeah, imposter syndrome is still very, very real for me right now, especially working with someone who is so much more advanced than I am. I One of the things that helps me personally is knowing that, like even if, and this is something that I learned in bootcamp, is knowing that even though if I don't have faith in myself and my ability, someone else hired me, so they have faith in me. So you're kind of removing yourself from the situation and putting that on somebody else. Like if someone believed in you, then maybe you can believe in yourself just a little bit as well. But to deal with like specifically with imposter syndrome, like in terms of like concrete steps, something I think about is imposter syndrome means that you don't currently have enough confidence, I guess, in the work that you're doing. So it's a matter of like building that self confidence in what you're doing, and to build that, you have to build competence. And the way to build competence is literally just by doing the work, like getting better, going through the tutorials, actually building projects, and you over time you get better and better and better. I think about when I first started learning web development, like properly, and there was this one night when I was working on a button transition. It took me the whole night to get that right. Like I just couldn't understand it. And thinking about all the CSS stuff now, it comes so easy to me, but it wasn't easy at the beginning. It was only because that I actually went through that process of just going through of like deliberate practice and putting the time in, that it's, moved from my, I guess, like my conscious to my subconscious mind, where I'm
Mm.
able to actually do it a lot easier now. So I know that if I just work and like do the things I need to do, it will become easier. And that's just something um, that is like a given, I suppose. And that gives me kind of a bit of a, like, it makes me feel better. Like I'm not going to feel this way forever. Like I am going to get better because I've already seen it. And if I look at all the things that I've accomplished until this point, I didn't suck like so bad. I got better. So
That's
yeah, it
really
kind of
good
helps.
advice. Thank you. I'm going to use that advice myself.